Everybody, my name is Devon and I am from Indigo Art Therapy Studio, and today I get the privilege of making art with you. We are going to be making scratch art to create a galaxy painting. And if you're not familiar what scratch art is, I have an example right here. But scratch art is basically, there are a bunch of colors on the first layer and then there is a paint mixture on the top layer. So when the paint mixture dries, you can actually scratch to find the color underneath. So this is a really kind of like fun and creative way to make art. And it also includes scribbling, which I'm a really big fan of anyway. So let's get started on creating our scratch art galaxies. So let's double check that we have all of the supplies that we need. The first thing you need is watercolor paper. Watercolor paper is going to be a little bit on the thicker side than regular computer or drawing paper. So we got our watercolor paper, we have a paintbrush, we've got some crayons, and we have, where did my black paint go? We've got black paint, and we have dish detergent. So the first thing that we're going to do is we get to scribble. So what we want to do is we want to cover the whole paper with different colors, because eventually it's going to be what you scratch away on your scratch art. So I'm going to choose colors that kind of make me think of like galaxy and space, but you can choose whatever colors you like. So I'm going to go with like some purples, I'm going to go with some blues, I'm going to go with like a silver and a gray. And as is the case with most art making, there's really no wrong answer. It's more just about kind of taking time to create art. That's really what this is about. So I'm going to share what I'm doing with you so you can see. So I am creating a nice kind of thick coat of crayon on the first layer. And I'm kind of noticing that this paper is sliding around a little bit. And I think I've got some tape stashed here. So if you are having trouble doing this scribbling portion without the paper sliding around, you can also tape it down as well. That might make things a little bit easier. Okay, so now that we got the four corners of our paper taped down, we're going to continue. So we are scribbling just sort of any sort of abstract shapes. If I'm going to go mostly with just like these little patches of color, but you might decide to actually draw a picture, just know that it will be covered up with paint. I am going to throw in some fun shapes. I'm going to do a star. There we go. And remember that there isn't really any wrong way for you to do this portion. Just make sure that you are really trying to fill up every like blank spot on this paper with color. Get a little bit more. Okay, awesome. So now that we have all of our colors on our paper, it's time to create the like black paint mixture that will eventually be coating your paper. So you need something to put your paint in, and you are going to go ahead and, depending on the size of your paper, you might need a little bit more paint than what I'm using. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour my black paint in here. Awesome. That should be plenty. And then we're going to put in dishwashing detergent. And the dish detergent makes so that the paint doesn't stick too strongly to the crayon. It makes it a little bit, it makes it so that you can scrape it off the paper. So what you want to do is you want to put like 1 part dish detergent to 3 parts paint. So you definitely want a certain amount in there, but you don't want too much, okay? And when we stir it, I'll be able to show you sort of like the consistency that you're going for. So once you get your dish detergent and your paint in, you're going to go ahead and stir it. And you should notice that the paint is getting a little bit bubbly. It's getting a little bit more watery, but you don't want it super watery. If you notice that it's really kind of turning into a liquid, liquid like water, then you want to add more paint to it because that means there's probably a little bit too much dish detergent in there. There we go. All right, so I'm glad I didn't even mean to, but I'm glad I used this clear jar so I can show you what we're looking at. So if you notice, there are some little tiny bubbles in my paint, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we want to happen. So now that we have our paint mixture, we're going to go ahead and we are going to coat the entire thing with this black paint. So we're going to say goodbye to our scribble drawing. It's going to turn into something else. This art sort of has like 3 stages. It's the crayon stage, then it's the paint stage, then it's the scraping stage. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do this. You're going to take your brush. And this part might take some time, depending on the size brush you have. I have a tiny brush, so I am going to go ahead and coat the whole thing with this black mixture. There you go. Sort of like night setting in, I guess, huh? And one thing I do kind of like to talk about often whenever I do art tasks is the 5 senses. Because mindfulness is something that I really like linking art making to. And if you're not familiar what mindfulness is sort of a way to pay attention to the present moment. Mindfulness can help you kind of like be in the moment and not feel too overwhelmed with emotions. And one really awesome way to practice mindfulness is to pay attention to the 5 senses. So the 5 senses are touch, smell, taste, hearing, and sight. And depending on what paint and what dishwashing detergent you used, your sense of smell is really going to be strong, maybe like mine is right now, because what I'm noticing more than anything else is like the dishwashing soap smell. But I'm also wondering what other of the 5 senses you are seeing you are experiencing right now. So I am seeing the paint covering the paper. I'm also noticing that the paint kind of has little bubbles in it. I'm smelling the dishwashing detergent. I am feeling the paintbrush on the paper. I'm not tasting anything because I don't want to taste this paint. And I'm not really touching anything other than the paintbrush because I don't want to get paint on my fingers. All right. There we go. Okay, so now that we have our paper covered in the black paint mixture, this is where we have to practice a little bit more patience because we got to wait for the paint to dry before we can do anything else. And I will give you a heads up that in Florida especially, paint takes a little bit longer to dry, so this might be testing your patience a little bit more than you would like it to be. I am going to check back in with this in a couple hours, and then we will continue with this video, and I will show you kind of how to scrape the paint off to create your galaxy painting. I'll see you in a bit. If you get tired of waiting, you can do this. So I got a little tired of waiting, so I decided to kind of speed up the process a little bit. I did use a hairdryer, and I think it did work, but we're about to find out. Okay, so there are a couple things that you can use to actually do the scratching. I like using a mechanical pencil with the lead taken out of it. You can also use a regular pencil. You can use a spoon. You can use a coin. Basically anything, keys, you can use anything that's easy for you to scratch with that won't make an extra mark on there. So as I said, the lead is taken out of this mechanical pencil, so it won't add an extra mark. So let's see how our project turned out. So we are fully dry, and let's see. There we go. Awesome. So we are noticing that the paint is scraping off very nicely, and the colors that we used are coming through. Awesome. Look at that. So as we mentioned earlier, this is a galaxy theme, so I'm going to take this time to add some stars, maybe some moons, maybe an alien spaceship. I wonder what you're going to use. I cannot wait to see how yours turns out. If you want to share it with us at Indigo, feel free to tag us in Indigo_Art_Therapy on Instagram. We would love to see what you come up with. Or if you want to share your pictures with me, you can email me at devon@indigoarttherapy.com. Thank you so much for including us in your art making today, and have an awesome day. Take care.